Today's interview is with Dawn Eich. Not only is she an instrumental person in helping human and sex trafficking victims, but she is also a survivor. Dawn has taken the energy from an unthinkable tragedy and funneled it to become a ray of hope for others. Dawn works with an organization called the Survival House that has tirelessly worked with men, women, and children, all of whom have been victims of some sort of human trafficking. Knowledge is power. I hope this interview will shed light on a topic that is closer to home than what most realize. Welcome back to Big Boss Mare with Brandy Von Holten. Today's episode is with a lady named Dawn Eich, okay? And it sounds like I-K-E, but it's actually spelled E-I-C-H. Okay, so Dawn, I actually met her maybe not quite a year ago, but around this time, it was close to a year ago. So she had brought a horse to me to train, and it was a little bit small. I got on it for the first couple of rides, but then I had to get the help of a couple of people that are smaller than myself, but then I oversaw the training. And that's not what she's here for today, but I'd like to talk about how sometimes these people come into our lives, but we never know their backstory. Okay, so it actually took a year of Dawn being in my life, and I seen a Facebook post, and then I'm like, what is that? You know, and then it brought on a whole nother private conversation, and then here we are. So Dawn, we're going to go back and talk about Bella, but just to let you know what this podcast is going to be, Dawn is actually a survivor of human trafficking. Okay, so we are going to get into, you know, that topic, it always feels like it's so far away from us, but it was right here in front of me, a survivor of it, and I didn't know until I started asking questions, because like I didn't understand what she was saying on Facebook, where she's went and done some public speaking now and is helping others that are going through the same thing that she did. So, Dawn, okay, so tell us the quick, it doesn't have to be super quick, but tell us about that horse, Bella, because I want you to realize what kind of woman Dawn is. Okay, not only does she help people, but she also helped this horse named Bella.
Thank you for having me, Brandy. I really appreciate it. Bella came into my life in 2012 as a 3-year-old little filly. She popped up on Facebook. Facebook is sometimes amazing for connecting parts of your life that you didn't know needed connecting. And this little beautiful bay filly pops up, and I called the lady on it, and she had told me the story of Bella. Bella had been born on Columbus Day in 2011 to a rescue mare who the sheriff's department found tied to a tree. The mare was severely emaciated. She was, Mama was an Arabian, a flea-bitten Arabian, and Daddy was who knew what.
Right.
And the sheriff's department brought Bella's mom to my friend Teresa's house, and Teresa started taking care of Mom, and next thing she knew, here she drops this filly, and she calls the vet, and the vet is like, look, you can't save this filly. You know, you're struggling to save this mare. So she decided to bottle feed Bella and try to save her life, and I'm thankful that she did. So Bella is more of a people type horse than she is a horse type horse, because she would love to be with people more than she loves to be with other horses.
Okay. I have a mule like that. You know, he'll actually drink beer with us. It's got to be Coors Light, it's got to be cold, and it's got to be in a bottle. Like
wow.
He has standards.
Okay?
Oh,
wow. Yeah.
So you brought Bella home, and like she bottle fed her, and then you fell in love with Bella. But I seen the pictures before, and whenever y'all you'll probably look Dawn up after you hear this story, and she's got some before and after pictures. So, and Bella is kind of a little bit of a handful. She can be a handful. She is the fire of the firecracker. Okay?
Yes, she is.
So,
absolutely.
Well, like whenever we had got her, she had not been rodent for just a little bit, and so I actually had our old intern Gunner ride her, and she put old Gunner on the ground a couple of times. One time she was afraid of this soccer ball, which she's been around those massive soccer balls
since she was a baby.
I know. Well, this one must have just scared her, and then he didn't have his legs in the stirrups, and it literally looked like, whenever Wile E. Coyote runs out across the cliff, and then it's right before he starts to fall. That's what Gunner was. He was like suspended, and then because she came out from underneath him. So I met Dawn. She had brought Bella here, and you were the first person that, like, because Bella had help from myself, David, Megan Acklin, one of our, a girl that's been around the ranch for a while. Wow. We had an intern named Shay. Shay helped out with Bella, and then Gunner. And then you gave each one of us like a sparkle hairbrush whenever.
That was Bella. She told me to do that.
Yeah.
She wanted to thank you all for the great care she received.
We loved Bella. Like, it was just, she's a fun little horse, and like, it's really nice to see those horses that, she wasn't even supposed to survive.
Right.
Well, not only did she survive, but she put Gunner on the ground. So, love that. So, Dawn is married to her husband, Randy. How long have y'all been married?
We got married in 2010, but we've been together 20 years.
Okay. So, it just took him a minute. Took y'all a minute to get married.
It took me a minute.
Okay. Okay. Hey, and then you own a pet store called Country Pets and Ponds, and it's in Warrensburg, Missouri. Now, how long have y'all owned that?
We started building it in 2002, and we opened in 2003.
Okay. All right. So 2003 is whenever I moved to the state of Missouri. I tried to go to the Olympics as a heavyweight fighter, and then here we do. We had big things going on in our life, and we didn't even know each other existed.
That's right.
Okay. So Dawn is here. Hey, well, you know how you're not supposed to ever ask somebody's age, weight, religion, politics, so we'll just go ahead and bust out some stuff. So Dawn is 53.
Yep.
I like to have people know, like a little bit. And she might be 5 foot tall.
I'm 4'11" 3/4.
Oh, 3/4. Okay. You were just short a quarter.
I'm just short a quarter.
Okay, so she's a tiny lady. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Dawn, something she had posted on social media that has us here talking today was that she had went and done a speech at Survival House. Okay, so then I think that's correct. That's where you had done this speech?
No, I had, I actually, I'm on the board for Survival House, and I did a discussion with the Noonday Rotary in Warrensburg about our organization.
Okay. That was what made me be like, what's that? And then she sent me a link. And then we started talking, and then here we are. Okay, so first of all, tell us about what Survival House is.
Survival House is a domestic and sexual assault emergency shelter. We take in men, women, and children. Survival House was started in 1983 when citizens in Warrensburg, Missouri came together because they saw a need. Okay. And it was an unspoken need because we didn't have the social media awareness about domestic violence that we have now. And now it has grown into helping sexual assault victims, sex trafficking victims, domestic assault victims, and all of our services have been free of charge for our clients since 1983.
Okay, so how does Survival House get funding?
A large portion of our funding is through grants, through state and federal grants. Okay. And then we do fundraising, different, we'll throw a party or we'll have an event with guest speakers. Sometimes we'll do smaller events, whether it's a walk. We get funding from our community. We have people that are very passionate about what we do, and they want to support us. We're getting ready to start a monthly donation where if, like for the cost of a cup of coffee, somebody can donate, say, $5 a month and get our newsletter and hear what's going on with survival. Okay. We do a lot of community outreach.
Okay.
And we are blessed because our community has supported us for over 38 years.
Okay. So, violence is, people do not know the past that someone has went through, okay? So today I am not prepared to share my story yet, but there's a reason that I learned how to be an Olympic level fighter, and there's a reason that I have plates and screws in my face, okay? So this right here is near and dear to my heart, but I don't want to discuss it today. So I will discuss that at a later date, and whenever I do, I think people will view me differently. But there's a reason why I am like a go fight win kind of person, because I've had to be, okay, in the past. So, Dawn, so first thing, you had told me you were a human trafficking survivor, and the first thing I said, well, is human trafficking the same as sex trafficking? Because, I did not, these are terminologies that don't come up in my normal, everyday vocabulary, okay? So, human trafficking, people can be trafficked for, they can become drug mules, okay? They can be put into workforce, for basically slavery, okay? And then we also have the sex side where people they have to perform sexual acts. And so sex trafficking is just a subcategory of human trafficking.
That's correct.
Okay. So I'm trying to make sure I've got the terminology right. Okay. So I'm ready. I want to hear your story.
Oh,
okay.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
When Survival House was being started in 1983, I was just finishing up the 7th grade, about to turn 14 years old. My father, who was a raging alcoholic and liked to gamble, actually gambled my life away to a violent pedophile. And on my 14th birthday, he gave me to him to pay his debts. So from that point, I wanted to escape in any way. I never saw it coming. I was locked in this man's trailer. It was everything you imagine that could happen to a young teenager happened, and I managed to run away.
How long were you with this gentleman?
I was
not gentleman, with this dirtbag piece of crap.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, for 10 days.
10 days.
And my father and the authorities started to get an idea of what was going on, and my father and this man feared that they would go to jail. So then their next plan was that I would become a child bride and I would marry him, and then he could do whatever he really wanted to me. And so I managed to escape. I contacted my godmother in New York, and when you were talking about human trafficking, in Texas, it was the sex trafficking. In New York, it was more of a combination of sex trafficking and human trafficking. When I arrived in New York, I had no idea my godmother was such a monster. And she was actually a mule for a pedophile. And she would find girls like me. She would groom us. She would drug us if necessary. She would hold girls down to be raped by her boyfriend. And
so you had your father and your godmother.
Yes.
These are not friendly people.
No.
You had it from two, because usually, man, with bad seeds in a family, you wouldn't think that there would be like a whole forest of them. You would think there'd be like a one bad seed, and I'm going to call your father a bad seed.
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because we have to keep it clean on here. Okay,
right.
As clean as you can be. Because right now I feel like the hair standing up on the back of my neck because I want to go do a bully beat down on your dad. But I know he is now deceased.
Yes.
Right. Okay, your father's deceased. Now the first question that comes to my mind is, did he end up into trouble for this?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So let's go back. So you were in Texas when that was happening? And
I
now
was
you
in
went
Houston, Texas, yes.
Okay. And then you went to New York whenever you escaped, and then you escaped to another super villain.
I went from the frying pan into the fire, and
gosh.
I had no idea.
Okay, because you went to her for, like, refuge. Like,
yes.
you were like, help me, and then she's like,
Yes.
oh, look what I've got.
Yes. And her abuse, in many ways, I feel was 10 times worse than my father, because she was setting out to abuse girls. You know, I would clean her house, and what a lot of people don't understand is having no resources. You know, my mother had died when I was 11. She fell asleep smoking in bed. So there was no one to turn to. And for her, I had to cook and clean for her. I had to work in her boyfriend's restaurant, take care of my younger cousin. She would keep almost all of my financial resources, you know, and that's what they rely on. The problem,
the dependency, like absolutely dependent.
Yes.
Like she was working you, and then you weren't gaining a way out of this.
No. And what a lot of people don't understand is when it comes to human trafficking, there's 3 ways that someone becomes a victim of human trafficking. The first is a stranger grabs you off the street and forces you into the lifestyle. The second is it's through usually a trusted family member. And then the third way is what I call mules. And my godmother was a mule. And a mule's job is to find the victim, groom the victim, and then traffic the victim to the main abuser. Now, mules will sometimes also be abusers. My godmother also raped me. And it's taken me 38 years to admit that. But the worst part about a mule is they will do anything to protect the secret of the abuser. So then they start doing the wet work. They make the threats. They assure you that no one will believe you, that you wanted the abuse. And I'm going to tell you, there's no child out there who begs to be abused. There's no young woman or young man who says, I want this to happen to me.
So for human trafficking, of the 3 ways, you know, I think a lot of people think that it's going to be the random person that doesn't know you. But I know whenever I was a school teacher, we had to study, abuse, and we had to understand poverty. And a lot of times whenever people are being raped, it's by family members.
Yes.
Okay, so, and then the mule, that seems like someone who is like a collector of people that are, that they're victims of unfortunate events, and then that they find them. But I like the fact that your father was the one that first got you into this at 14, and oh my gosh, your mother died in a fire accident from smoking while in bed while you were 11. Like, you know, I can't, it's hard to, whenever I meet people that have went through these like traumatic events, and then here you are, a professional businesswoman.
Thank you.
In a successful marriage with a man that loves you, and he's overcome bladder cancer.
Yes.
And I've met your granddaughter, and then you have done nothing but been nice to me. And I mean, you met me as a horse trainer. There's a whole bunch of us. Okay.
Yes, there is.
I mean, there's a lot of us. And but the fact that you have you feel very mama bearish. You know what I'm talking? And
thank you.
You're a mama bear, even though you're the size of a cub.
Well, I appreciate that.
But, dynamite comes in small packages too, right?
Absolutely.
So how does someone go? How did you get out of it? First of all, how many years did that go on with the evil godmother?
Actually, thank you, Lord, I was only with her for 9 months. But it was a stranger who changed my life. She had told me I was worthless. I was going to drop out of school. I was never going to be in anybody. And
the godmother, not the stranger.
My godmother,
okay.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. And she told me that I would have to stay and work for her and work for Ben and work in the pizzeria in Soho. And my way out was I was going to overdose, and I was going to take all the pills that she would keep in her cabinet that she would slip into girls' drinks and stuff, and I was just going to overdose. I mean, That's
what she told you?
No, that's what I was going to do. I didn't want to work for her. I didn't want to stay with her. I was terrified of bearing my abuser's child.
Because then you're connected to him.
Oh, I mean, there was just no way out for me. And my only thought was, okay, if I'm dead, then I can't be hurt. I'm free. But it was a stranger who came into my life and just basically helped me see that there was more to life than just death, and helped me find the courage to escape and get away from her. And I was able to, thankfully, get away from her and go stay with family in Pennsylvania and live a life that I never thought possible. Graduate from high school, go to the Governor's School for the Performing Arts. I joined the military. I was in the Air Force, which is why I'm here in Missouri, because I got stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base. Okay. Used to work out in the missile fields. And
did you ever disclose to the family in Pennsylvania? You said it's Pennsylvania?
Yes. Yes, I did. And so my family members decided to contact my father. And, of course, my father denied everything and said, oh, no, she wanted to marry him, and she wanted to be with this man, and I was always pulling her off of other men and stuff. And that's the problem with this type of abuse, is the burden of proof falls to the victim, and we tend to believe the abuser, and we tend to validate the abuser. And
I would know, man, if I was faced with two different stories, man, I would never, ever want to think that, oh my gosh, this person's capable of this heinous crime. Right. And then looking at your age, 14 to 15-year-old girl, yes. I mean, a lot of girls get lost at that time in their life. Mm-hmm. And, we got a lot of stuff going on, and sex a lot of times happens because it makes you feel pretty, makes you feel grown up. So, but whenever somebody tells you that something's bad going on, something bad is going on. Okay, that needs to be, now as school teachers, we are forced to, to report. Yep. Yeah, because your family unfortunately made they went with the easier side to swallow than the harder story, so.
Well, I think the other flip side of that is it's hard to imagine that someone would do that to their child.
Yeah. It always feels like this far distant person in another state, not the person that's right in front of me that's talking to me.
Exactly. And, I don't know. My reasoning on that was, if I really wanted to be with this man, why didn't I stay in Texas and marry him?
Right.
Why did I run away? I mean,
like the obvious loophole right there in their story.
Exactly. And I always say what people really need most, especially children, is they need a good listening to. They need to be heard, and they need to be heard without judgment. I'm not saying not necessarily without reaction, because sometimes you hear things that are so heartbreaking, you can't help but react. But the most important thing we could do is if someone comes to us, man, woman, child, and they say, this happened to me, the first thing I would say is believe them,
right?
Validate them, give them at least an opening where they can share their story, because that's what's so healing about it. When you said earlier, Randy, that you weren't ready to share your story, I think when people hear your story, when you're finally ready, what they're going to see is strength behind who you are. And I think that's going to be a beautiful and a powerful thing. And it's going to allow other women to feel that, wow, that was courageous. I can share my story. And that's where the healing starts.
Right. So here you are. What is the flip? How did the flip happen from, here's this heinous crime that's happened to you, and then oh, heck no, I'm going to be somebody. I'm going to be this positive person. How did you gain that?
Well, I always say I never wanted to live up to the expectations that people set for me. When somebody told me I was going to be a failure and I was going to drop out of school and I was going to be the teenage pregnancy story, it kind of made me feel good not to live up to their expectations, because my personal expectations were more than that.
Okay, so some people they can be broken down and they build themselves back up and be like, oh no, I'm going to prove them wrong. See, I'm not that person. I'm not that person that if somebody breaks me down, I don't rebuild stronger. Like I have to, I have to stay up. Like for me, I have to stay up all the time, because if I get down, it's not good. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to dig back out of something. Like, I don't know. I'm not that person that, like, a lot of time the military, well, you were military. I mean, they break you all the way down, and then
they do.
And they reform you, know, as stronger on the other side. Well, some people, when they get broken down, they stay broken.
Yes.
Okay. I have to go off and do my own thing. You know what I mean? Like whenever something is broken, it's easier to give birth than to raise the dead. So if something goes wrong on one road, then I'm like, I've got to get away from that, you know? So I've always admired people that could be broken down and to chew on that same thing and then rise up, because I like relationships. Okay. If I am hurt by someone, I wash my hands. I'm like, and we're done. Like, I've had people, okay, so David and I are happily married, and people are just like, oh, what would you do if he cheated? And I'm like, I would divorce him. They're like, you wouldn't beat him up and the girl. And I'm like, no, they wouldn't be worth my time.
Oh,
and
that's relatable.
I would wash my hands like 2 seconds, you know? And I don't know, that's always like surprised people. Like other people would be like, I'm going to kick your butt and I'm going to kick your butt and I'm going to tell everybody. And I'm like, no, you would not exist to me. I see, like I'm like cold whenever it comes to ending things.
Mm-hmm.
And like other people want to stay there and fight and chew it up. And I'm like, I'm not that person. So
now, see, I have a little bit of that, but I'm more I would decorate him up in a real pretty bow and deliver him to her. There you go. He's yours now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then I'd go on vacation.
And make him pay for it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm kind of like, man, what did you have to mentally do to survive in that 10 days and then 9 months? And I could see the 9 months being rougher.
Yes,
because that was on so many different levels. I mean,
mm-hmm.
the hopelessness. Hopelessness is whenever suicide comes in.
Yes.
And you had touched on that. And if you've ever found yourself in this hopeless moment in your life, you then understand it for other people that get there to that point. The fact
absolutely.
that you had gotten there makes you a wonderful asset to people that are there now, because you have risen from that. But what is something mentally that you had to do to survive during that time?
I think you just reach a point where failing's not an option. And in many ways, I would compare different things that I had gone through, like, well, I had been through something that was worse, but I know there's something better. And I had done that a few times, but I really think I was just simply in survival mode. Kind of like when you're drowning, you just keep kicking, trying to reach the surface. And I think that's where I was. I was just wanting to survive.
There's like a country song that says, if you're going through hell, just keep going.
Yes.
And that is like, music always comes to me, and like, that's what I'm, that's the song lyric that I have in my head. So what are some, okay, so I noticed like there's like a little inflection of your voice. I think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Of whenever you say that there's men at the house now. Okay, so yes. I know from school teacher days that boys are raped just as women are, and then they actually a lot of times want to stay quiet because it just they're afraid of being judged as not manly, or so the fact that y'all started taking men, I'm really happy about that, to be able to help those men heal, because did they just now start taking men in the last couple of years?
In the last couple of years, it's become slightly more socially acceptable, I think, men to say this happened. I think that the support is there for them, and they're being made aware of it. And I think we're starting to realize that telling a young man, hey, suck it up and be a man, take it, boys don't cry. I think
There's
we're starting.
No future in that.
No, there isn't. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter if you're male, men, women, children. This happens to everyone.
Right. And
everyone has the right to feel validated and to feel safe and be shown a way to find resources to get out of it.
So now, so this happened whenever you were 14, 15, and now you're 53. PTSD long term.
Yes.
Okay, so talk about, like, because I know that you're probably less trusting of people.
Absolutely. We had talked about that before the program. I tend to, I think you see, when you've been abused, you see people through the filter of your abuse. And so I always wonder, okay, who is this person and what hell are you going to bring into my life? And then I tend to keep them at arm's length. I don't invite people into my life very openly and readily. I'm like to keep my circle kind of small, which is why my husband of 20 years had no idea, or we've only been married 10, but our relationship is 20 years. He had no idea that I had been sex trafficked. He knew something happened. He knew that when I would wake up in the middle of the night kicking and screaming and fighting for my life, well, something happened to her, but he didn't know.
How long has it been since he found out?
He found out in February of 2020. 2020's been kind of rough for him.
2020's been rough for a lot of people.
Yes, it has, unfortunately.
Okay, so he just found out, and I mean, I'm sure that whenever, here's this man that you love, but you have compartmentalized this right here away from him, because you're wanting to, you had thought that there'd probably be maybe reaction on his side or something, just wanted to keep him from that. But I could just imagine, like, if there was this big, huge thing that I kept from my husband, I told him, I think I would feel lighter. Like, I would feel this huge, like, cloak of weight off of me. Is that how you felt?
Well, at first, I chose to let my husband know what happened to me in a very public arena. It was during our Survival House's Second Chance Prom annual fundraiser for Survival Night Out. So I was standing on a stage. There were several hundred people. He was sitting there with neighbors and people he knew, and he had no idea that I was about to rip off the Band-Aid of a horrible secret that I had held for decades.
Right. That's probably huge for him. You know what I mean? Huge, like, just like what, because like, I know that I love David, and if he had kept something like that from me, I would feel so sorry for him for having to keep that from me, or feel the need that he thought that he had to. But then part of me, I would also be ticked off, okay, because he didn't tell me.
Well, yes. Well, and let me tell you a little backstory about my husband. My husband is a retired police officer. He had over 38 years of law enforcement experience. He was the lieutenant of the detective division at the Warrensburg Police Department. He dealt with, and for years, I would see him deal with women and men and children that had gone through many of the same things I had gone through. And I think what gave me the courage to come out to him so publicly and to my community the way I did was I saw the compassion and I saw the validation that he would give victims. And he showed me that love also. He validated me and validated what happened to me and made himself very available to discuss it at any length that I wanted to discuss it. My rejection that I feared never materialized.
Yeah.
And that was a blessing.
Oh, yeah. This fear that so many people have about all of these different events is just like this fabricated future that doesn't exist. And then and you feel so good whenever you get to the future and then you realize that it didn't happen that way. I don't know why we couldn't fabricate like this wonderful, loving, supportive thing. No, we had to fabricate like rejection and not acceptance and stuff.
Exactly.
So our minds are evil. Okay.
Yes.
If we can ever shut our head up, the world would be a lot better and we'd be a lot happier.
You've got that right. That's absolutely right.
So how do you go about finding people? Like, how many beds are y'all able to help with the survival house, or how many people at one time?
Well, right now we have 2 shelters. We have Shelter 1, which is over 100 years old, which was one of the reasons that I had gone to discuss our shelter situation with the Noonday Optimists. And we have Shelter 2. We have 27 beds between the 2 facilities. We also have an outreach office. We offer everything from counseling services to relocation services. We are 24/7 manned operation. We even have a hotline for people to call in.
What's that number? Or do you know it?
Yes, it's you can call our outreach office at 660-429-1080.
Okay.
And we have a great partnership with local law enforcement. What a lot of people don't understand is Survival House in Johnson County, Missouri, also serves Henry County. A few years ago, Henry County Shelter had to close due to non-financing. They just couldn't get the money and the resources to keep it open. So we picked up Henry County also, and we have reached out to law enforcement and local authorities, and they bring us a lot of our residents. We also work within children's services. We also work with some of our other local organizations through either like the local shelters, the homeless shelter, or we have Standing in the Gap Ministries. So we try to help other organizations that may need resources, or not help them, but help their clients if we can provide resources for them.
So that telephone number again was 660-429-1080.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, 1080. Okay.
1080,
Yep.
yes.
Okay. So you said that during the time whenever all this was happening that you were bad. Okay, like you were acting out. That makes me think about I had a student before that her mother had put her into prostitution. Ooh, I'm choking up a little bit. That student was so hard to love.
Yes.
Like, it took everything I had to love her.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking, because she was mean. She was so mean to me. I had nothing to do with that, and I had to learn as a teacher to not take that stuff personally. Mm-hmm. But good Lord, she was difficult. And so if you have, these people, these children in your lives, or these people in your lives, and they are just hard to love.
Yes.
You don't know what the backstory is.
Yes.
Okay, so, man, I have never, I disliked her. I did not like her. She was mean to kids. She was mean to adults. Mm-hmm. She was loud. She, it was really hard to love her.
You're describing me.
Yeah.
Now you sympathize with my husband.
Oh, now. He got the older version of you. He got the one that's learned how to mend, and he got the one that's, he got a great person.
Well, thank you.
Because a lot of great people do not come from great beginnings. No, survivors and people that, a lot of people that you love in your life and that you meet, and these achievers, mm-hmm. That's not built on rainbows and unicorns.
No.
Okay, no, it's built on hard times, like
yes.
extremely hard times and difficult situations and things that people don't want to talk about. That's how some of the greatest people in the world are made, is not made on some nice path. They're made on a path that nobody wants to go down.
Very true.
So I should probably reach out. Some of the students that I know that have been, some of my previous students that have been sexually abused, a lot of them have made great decisions as adults because they never want to put somebody through what they went through.
Absolutely.
I mean, some of them are the best parents. They're like the sweetest people in the world, and it's just because they know, like not a little bit know, like they know what it's like to go through horrible events.
Yes.
That's where I kind of put you with, you're such this like ray of sunshine in my life that's super supportive, and it's because you you know what it's like to go through things. So, what are some signs? So whenever you were bad, like getting into fights, cussing people, punching them, running away, stealing, all of the above?
Well, I wasn't, I can't say I wasn't stealing because I was a starving child. So, if you left the hamburger around, it would disappear, and then I'd lie to you and tell you the dog took it. But I was I was a child who would get into fights. First, I would try to stay in the background, but boy, if you targeted me, I would come at you with both barrels, because I refused to be a victim, especially in school. And I really have to attribute a lot of my success to teachers who saw through what I was, and they decided to make an active and a conscious choice to love me through it. Now, it was not all teachers, because there were some teachers that just simply hated my guts. I didn't blame them. I hated my guts too. But like my principal, when we were homeless, my principal every Friday would send me home with a bag of sandwiches. My librarian would let me take home extra books to read. So when
she knew it was an escape for you.
Yeah.
A lot of times, man, whenever I used to be a teacher, my hands were tied. They were so tied. I couldn't do things sometimes. I had this poor boy that I knew that he had been raped before. And he was trying to stay awake at nighttime to make sure that his little brother didn't get raped. And I was his first class in the morning, and he was so tired. Okay. Do you know I let him sleep sometimes? And then I got in so much trouble. They would be like, he's asleep back there. And I'm all like, And I had reported it. But then he didn't want to be removed from the house because he wanted to protect his younger brother. Yeah. And I'm over here like, oh my gosh. I'm like, my science class does not matter. What matters is that boy can get a little bit of sleep, so then the rest of his classes he could be awake for, And he was bad at school, but he made sure he never got kicked out because he didn't want to go home.
Right.
So it was like he was a difficult kid, and me and him, oh my gosh, I love him, and I know that he loves me because,
that's awesome.
I made sure and gave him Christmas gifts and stuff, but like the only thing that I was able to do was to let him sleep, and we had block scheduling, and it wasn't every night, it wasn't every day, but teachers' hands are tied sometimes, like they're majorly tied. So the fact that you had this librarian that her hands were probably tied, and she's trying to do anything that she can.
And that's what's so beautiful about education, because I'll tell you what, teachers do not get into it for the money. They get into it for the heart and to make a difference. And that's what's amazing and you gave that little boy everything that he needed, and it had nothing to do with his textbook.
So whenever you first came here, she gave me a lantern, okay? And it was so share the story behind your collection of lanterns.
I collect lanterns. I love lanterns. The older, the dirtier, the nastier, the better. When I was living in Houston, Texas, we were homeless, living in the state park off of Hempstead Highway. And our campsite, we couldn't afford the campsite with electricity. We could barely afford the campsite that had no electricity, camping in the rough. And we kept getting evicted off of that because my father was an alcoholic, and all of his money went to beer and cigarettes. But my librarian would let me check out books, and I would read every night. I would read these books by the lantern. And we really developed this amazing relationship because she knew that, say, for instance, when she introduced me to Jack London, I wasn't in the middle of poverty and homelessness. Sorry. I was taken to Alaska and the tundra. And it's amazing when somebody sees a need in your life and they go above and beyond. And it's a type of love to love you through it.
Yeah, she was doing what she could do at that time.
Yes.
You know, and now you're doing what you're able to do with the support of the survival house. Those people need a way out, and it's immediate help. And the fact that y'all are servicing 2 counties, and then working with all these different areas, it's like you've got this big, huge, your arms are open saying, come and we will help you. And the fact that you're a survivor makes it so much easier. You know what I mean? Easier for them to talk to. Nothing's easy about this at all. That was the wrong word, but I'm just saying.
No, I know
you are an example. You are what they can become later after some healing happens and they can get out of their current situation and someone takes the time to listen to them. So, because they've got a lot of healing and people have got to heal, because whenever they go through these huge traumatic events and they don't heal, they're going to do the same thing to someone else.
Right.
They're going to do some heinous crime. They're going to not be able to take care of themselves. They're going to commit suicide. I mean, they're going to do something that is like not healing is not an option for somebody. They've got to heal.
Right.
They've got to heal, or this is going to be projected onto another generation.
Right. Or even projected onto themselves, because what a lot of people don't understand about overcoming abuse is that it's easier to feel like you deserve the abuse and then you start abusing yourself. And I think that, for instance, take drug addiction. I don't want to see someone who's trying to overcome sexual abuse turn to sticking a needle in their arm so that they can mentally escape, you know, what happened to them or what they are going through. I would rather give them resources to realize that if Survival House can provide, say, a group therapy where they can get together with other survivors, or they can even speak to our counselor, or they can even go into some of our volunteer programs, and maybe they just need somebody to stand beside them when they go into court and they're facing their abuser. We provide court advocacy. So it's not just about what happened to you. It's how can we help you get past what happened to you so that they can live the dream that they really wanted for their life.
Right. I mean, like, you needed money. You needed money to get out. You needed food. Okay. Well, some people might not need money and food, but they might need someone right there beside them to go to a court date. And then here's someone that has forced themselves on them.
Right.
You know, like, that makes my heart come up into my throat with just this amount of fear that would be involved with that. You know, people need different things. So that's good that that Survival House is able to be like, okay, what can we do to help you?
Right.
Okay, so talking about books. So you know that I write children's books.
Yes.
I'm going to read my 3rd book coming out is about a horse named Chalkboard. And her book, you know, my goal with these children's books is to do character development, but I just want to get them into schools because I know that there's children out there that need to connect with these.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to read just the first part of Chalkboard's book.
Okay.
All right, so chapter 1, repeat after me. I am enough. I am loved. I deserve the love given to me. Now don't let my name fool you into thinking I am only a child's horse. I am as tough as nails, and not one cow will ever get past me or touch my cowboy. My name is Chalkboard.
Oh, I love that.
So there's just a lot of things going on with a lot of people that nobody has a clue about.
That's true.
Yeah. So, all right, people need to pay attention, and you might be the stranger just like that Dawn had a complete stranger that
Absolutely.
helped her. Okay. Here she is on this podcast, and we're reaching countries and different states, and maybe people needed to hear Dawn's story to help them get started with, they might be in the same situation right now, and they're like, am I ever going to make it out of this?
Yes.
Or you might be a person that has some kind of horrible thing you've went through and you haven't told your spouse and you're worried.
Yes.
And so here we are. Or you might be thinking, that I'm small. I can't get out of these things, and you can get out of anything.
Yes.
You are never stuck. You are never stuck. You can be unstuck within 1 second. As soon as, And sometimes you just need help, but all you have to do is reach out. So if somebody was right now going through this, could they just call the police or just show up at a police department and be like, can you help me?
Yes. And that's the beauty of law enforcement. Most law enforcement has been trained to not only spot abuse and recognize it, but how to make proper responses and how to get the client in touch with resources. Say, for instance, a young woman has been raped. Then law enforcement know that they can reach out to us, and we will show up at the hospital. We will help that victim with whatever they need to put them on a path to recover from that. What a lot of people don't understand is that if a man or a woman is raped or a child is abused, say, for instance, they go to the police take them to the hospital. Well, they have no clothing. Just something so simple, because then their items of their outfit become evidence. So it's important that they have somebody there who understands that this is an immediate need and we're going to take care of it, but there's going to be a future need, and we're still here to help you take care of it. And that's what's great about Survival House.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think about future help. I had a friend, she had a spouse that has passed away. Well, right then, everybody wants to help right then. Well, it's been a little bit of time since then, and now I check on her. People don't think about, they might think about right then, but then what about a week? What about 14 days? What about a month from now? There's still needs there. Right. So Dawn owns this pet store, Country Pets and Ponds in Warrensburg, Missouri. If you're on any of my Facebook pages and you look through the likes, you'll see her there, okay? She's sharing my stuff. She's loving me. She's commenting. And so she's all over social media, and you can look up her business. If you want to support her, then go to a pet store and get what all do y'all have there?
Oh, well, we have a little bit of everything from reptiles to fish to small animals. But if you really do like my story and you want to support, please consider supporting Survival House or an organization like Survival House, because you may not see your help. It may be, say, $5 that you donated, but that $5 may go to somebody who's on the other end of the phone reaching out to a victim and saying, hey, come in, we'll help you. Right. Or we have a resource here for you.
And now you've also written some books.
I have.
Okay, how many books have you written?
I've written 4.
Okay.
And 2 are currently published and available. I pulled one back, but and I'm about to finish The Mule. And The Mule is sex trafficked to survival. It's when in one of your previous podcasts you had talked about editing. I find editing to be the worst, and I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's just going back through it again, or so it's my biggest struggle. So I have my book is about to go to a friend of mine who's going to edit it for me. Thank you, Lord. But I've written The Other Female, which is about my husband's horse who helped us get through his bladder cancer. And then Places. Places is about the dogs in my life who helped me get through different stages in my life. I love animals. I really think that they're an earthly angel to help us deal with everything that being human inflicts on us.
Well, I know my dog loves me every day, no matter if the world is against me, my dog still loves me.
And it's unconditional.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can be stinky, I can be ugly, I can be anything, and she's just so happy to see me.
That's right. That's right. And that's how it should be.
So the 2 books that you already have out right now, if they wanted to get a copy of those, what are The Other Woman? So talking about your...
The Other Female.
The Other Female.
Yeah, she's not a woman.
Oh, okay.
She's a horse. They're available on Amazon.
Okay. And do you have them underneath your name?
Yes, they're under my D.M. Eich, E-I-C-H.
Okay, so it's capital D, period, capital M, period, and then E-I-C-H.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's about helping It was about your husband's journey through bladder cancer. And then the other one is Places. That's out. It's about the different dogs in your life and about how they... so that book right there, that sounds like it could be a tearjerker.
Oh, you're going to bawl.
You're going, okay.
I'm going to warn you, both of them can be very heartstring. They can really pull on your heartstrings. But I am very blessed because it's not how your life starts. It's not even how everything you go through. It's how you finish it and the choices that you make. And I'm blessed that I have people around me that have really helped me make choices that help me prosper in life and afford me the opportunity to help others. Being current president of the Board of Survival, I know that the little things that we're doing in life is really making a difference. They say it takes a village to raise a child. I say it takes a village to save each other.
That's what I was so thinking about, that same quote. I'm like, it takes a village just to raise people.
Yes.
People that are already grown we all need help. I mean, I'm 41 right now, and I feel like the amount of growth that I've went through in the last couple of years is exponential. And so here you are helping people that, they're all different ages, and we can always get better.
Right. So. And one last thing, I can never repay the folks who have helped me in my life. I can only pay it forward. And I think that they don't expect repayment. But I think choosing to help somebody else, I think that's more important in our lives, and it helps give our life meaning.
Right. Well, I know if it's kind of like a ripple. So, like, if you help that one person, you never know. That's kind of like horseback riding lessons where I've learned from an instructor, but now then the wave of people that I have come into contact with.
Yep. And you're helping people with this podcast.
Oh, this podcast helps me just as much as I think it helps other people. So, okay. Well, hey, thank you for tuning in to Big Boss Mare with Brandy Von Holten. And we'll, your tribe equals your vibe. And my vibe is pretty good today because I've got Dawn in our tribe with Big Boss Mare. Okay. Until next time, thank y'all very much.
Bye.